Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, everyone. Eg- We are still back. I'm saying that because I just checked the previous recording and it was the first thing we said. So 3 weeks in a row. I think this is four actually,
Yeah,
and we've not run
technically.
away.
You
Yeah,
guys
this is
have
the
been
fourth episode.
consistent.
Love to see
Yeah,
it. Love to see it.
and that voice you're hearing is Miss Laolu. She is our guest today.
Whoop whoop!
So
First
Oh,
guest,
first guest
first
ever.
guest.
And a little story. The funny thing is, this podcast was decided on during NeoFest.
really?
Yeah.
Tell
I
me
was I
more.
was I was on the phone. I was updating Van about just how NeoFest was going. And then as usual we'll get into a discussion. I was like, I don't know who said it first, but I know we've had the conversation before and we're like, you know what, let's do a podcast. And before I think Saturday the last day. Saturday was the last day, isn't it? Friday, Saturday.
Yes,
Yeah. And before the end of Saturday, we had already like, what's the name gonna be? This is suggestion. We had a note opened on collaborated on iPhone and just like, and that's how. And the following weekend, the following Saturday, we had recorded a test episode,
I love
which
that.
ended up actually being published, which was not the plan, but yeah. But yeah, Laulu, do you want to introduce yourself? Because I mentioned Neo in case anyone is listening doesn't really know.
Yes.
But yeah,
Mhm.
just introduce yourself, tell us a bit, and then also
Hey,
tell us how your
people.
week has been, because that's also
Okay,
like, yeah.
that's a good question. Okay, hey, people. I'm Laolu, aka Olaolu Adada. I am the Chief Community Officer at Neo Group, and we basically exist to empower women and make sure that they are able to build products and ideas that enable them to be economically empowered. We've been doing this for 7, almost 8 years now. And the visionary, the CEO herself, Oyin Adebayo, brought me on very early on in the journey. Um, I actually started off in her hair dressing chair. She used to do my hair at university.
Oh,
Yeah. So she used to do my hair at uni, and we would always have conversations about business and social impact and where the two align. Does making profit have to cause harm to people? Maybe there are ways to
mm,
actually make sure people are empowered by the wealth that you're building. 7 years later, we're a £1 million company. We're very proud to say that. Numerous awards. And really, over 900 women upskilled on our tech boot camps. And now we are building an edtech platform, and we're hoping to upskill 100 million? No, 1 million women.
I mean, why
In
not?
Yeah, I mean, soon. Let's start with
I'm
1
here
million
for it.
first. 1 million first. We are building an edtech platform that rewards women for their learning, so gamification, education, and really just helping people cross over, because a lot of women tend to be in front-facing roles that are more administrative, more operational. However, a lot of us don't have technical skills to actually cross over and make ourselves useful for the future workforce. And so we're really just about helping people do that and build out ideas. If they have tech ideas, tech businesses that they want to nurture, we have a platform that enables them to do that. So that's Neo in a nutshell. What else do I do outside of that? AKA the Laolu Effect on YouTube and Instagram. I'm like a amateur YouTuber. Let's see, 2025. I'm gonna try and make it like a
Oh, you're
thing.
gonna try to take it serious.
Yeah, so
Mm,
watch this space, all of that stuff. But
nice,
yeah,
nice,
that's
nice.
me in a
Oh,
nutshell.
nice to
How's
have
my
you.
week
Nice to have you.
been? How's my week been? I think this has been one of the best weeks of my life so far.
Ooh,
Oh,
do tell, girl.
do tell.
Okay, so I
We like
joined.
gist, though. We like gist. I'll just
No
let you know.
problem. I mean, it's not like love related. Sorry, but
Oh, we're
like,
getting to that.
because I know people like to ask me questions like, "Laulu, what's happening now?" Sorry, for the non-Yorubas, that is, Laulu, what's happening? What's happening? Basically.
Mm.
Um. So yeah, like this week I joined a challenge, and funny enough, it's a business coach, and he wakes up like 6 a.m. Well, he wakes up at 4 a.m. and he does his sessions at 6 a.m. So every day this week, or for 5 days out of this week, we had a coaching call early in the morning, and it was really kind of igniting this passion in me for like media and really just dispelling light and educating people, inspiring people, sharing wisdom, using media, because that's specifically like his expertise in coaching. And I felt very connected to my purpose this week. I think that's the crux of it. I felt very aligned with what I wanted and what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think when you're used to startup life or just trying to build a career and things like that, make money, sometimes you disconnect from, oh, okay, yeah, like I remember why I'm actually on this journey anyway. I remember why God even sent me in this direction anyway. And I think that's why there's been a lot of like aha moments internally, and talking to God about things that he told me about back then. I'm like, oh, this makes sense now. So yeah, I have really enjoyed this week thus far.
Oh, nice.
That's good.
Nice. Van, how's your week been? Have you recovered from your cold?
Oh, that took a long time. So there's this nasty cold going around. So like the episode we had, previous episode, I was quite stuffed up. Yeah, so it was going around, and then I
It's
eventually
still going
caught
around
it.
actually. It could be another COVID.
I hope not, because it wasn't
I'm
funny.
a
Like
conspiracy already there.
I'm kind of person that has to be chased off of work. So like on Thursday, I worked, but I did a half day because my boss was like, Vanessa, you need to get off. Like you don't, he said, you don't sound right. You don't look right. Like you're not right. So you need to get off. But I've recovered. I'm still clearing my throat a bit because there's like residuals and stuff. But for the most part, I'm okay.
I have a question for you when you're done. Sorry,
Yeah.
Brad.
Oh,
No,
okay, no problem. But yeah, all in all, I had a great week at work. It was very busy. I'm still very busy at work, but I had a call. I've been working on some stuff for the past few weeks, for like upcoming projects. So I've been doing like mock-ups and project planning. And the client was very chuffed actually, and she's tough to impress. So when she kept saying, "Oh, I love this. Oh, I like where your mind is. Oh, I like this. Oh, can we do this? Oh, nice. Oh, what's the this? What's the that?" I was like, I was trying not to blush because I was like, it took me a long time because literally the whole concept came from nothing. They just basically said, "Oh, we have this problem," and I came up with like a solution for it, and then from that solution, I came up with another solution, and they're like, "Actually, we want to do that too. Can we do all of it?" So like, I had a like, I was very tired. It was very stressful, but it ended in I'll go Christianese here. It ended in praise. So I had a good week and I ended up finishing on a high, and I got my
Glory
nails
to
done.
God. Praise
So
Jesus. Do you know what? I watch your
This your
stories
nail
whenever
tech.
you're gloating about your long nails because these are acrylics. And I'm just like, yeah,
oh,
Vanessa, thanks for sharing us how long your natural nails are.
I changed the shape as well. I changed the shape. Ooh. Yeah, I've
So
changed the shape
Laolu,
of
you were
it.
saying
Yeah, you said you had a question for who?
My question was for you. Like,
Okay.
Vanessa, I wanted to understand where that work ethic comes from, because you said that they have to like literally make you go off work in order for you to like allow your body to rest. So like,
Yeah.
what drives that? Why, in simple terms, why do you work that hard? But like, it's really just, it's not just why do you work that hard when you're sick. It's just like, what makes you work in that way?
Oh wow,
Where did you learn that?
that's a very good question. Do you know, how do I say? I think there's been a few things. I think the first hard worker I ever saw was my mum. So yes, so when I was younger, so I was born in Nigeria. I moved here young, but I was born there. So our life was there, and my mum had her company. She built that company in her early 20s. And I remember I actually went into nursery myself and my twin brother at 3 months old because my mom was this big boss CEO. Yeah. So she had to travel around Nigeria. She had contracts with the government. And so I I remember my mom. I remember, I told you in our last episode that I saw myself being in a suit and carrying a briefcase. That was actually because that was what my mom looks like every day. So she had all these like pantsuits, all these like 2 pieces. She had like this wig that she would wear and stuff, and she always just looked corporate. So she's always been a hard worker, even till now. Like my mom has 4 degrees, guys. And so she's always been a hard worker. But I tell you something, and it might sound strange, but there's always been this niggling feeling inside of me that I wasn't born to be mediocre. I can't explain it. And so there's always a thing where I always feel as though if I'm going to do something, there has to be a level of excellence to it. And so anything I do, that's why I don't do too many things, because I want to be able to do something and do it really well. And I just always have that drive that, you know what, Vanessa, you could make this better. I know B had an experience with me, our first episode, where I was so nitpicky about like even the clips, and he's like, Van is fine. I'm like, no, it could be better. No, I cried. I was like, no. And it's not like just me being a perfectionist. It's just because I know I can always tell when I haven't put my heart into something what it looks like. And I'm like, you know what? This is because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And so I just always feel as though, yes, I can be better. And actually, I'm actually looking for a business coach now, because like last year, I didn't tell many people this, but I took a cooking class. And I told a friend of mine, she was like, you cooking class?
You needed
I'm
a
like,
cooking class.
yes, because I said
why you would do that.
Yeah, I think Laolu, I think you would get it. And I was just like, you know what? Yes, my cooking is like, I don't want to toot my own horn. Like, it's great, but I knew,
good, guys.
but yeah, and I was like, I started to follow a lot more. And I have a question for you, Laolu, because I started to follow a lot more like cooking pages, and I would see that, you know what, I feel like the consistency of my jollof, I just feel like there's something missing, and I feel like my soups, I feel like there's a secret ingredient that I'm not quite catching. Like I know what it should taste like, and it tastes great, but so I joined the cooking class, I paid and everything. The first time I utilized my skills from that cooking class, I got someone message me and said something's changed in your jollof. And this person has been a regular customer for 2 years.
They liked the change?
They liked the change.
Okay.
My jollof has been fine. The person's been a consistent customer for 2 years, but the person says something's changed. And I knew exactly what had changed. And I was like, I'm telling you. So I was like, yeah, so that's it. So just me wanting to just be better, you know, and do better. So yeah.
I always envy people who, I won't say naturally have that, but by, you know, late 20s or even early 20s have that already instilled in them. I don't think I had that.
I can
instilled
in
me, you know. So I'm always envious because, for example, his name is online. We have to call him. Yeah, online we have to call him Wow 2.0. Actually, sorry, it's now Wow 3.0. Jesus Christ! I posted the content for Quadridum during our weekly stand-up. He brought out the brand guideline, and he said, "You used the word very demure. I didn't know what it meant, so I asked my younger siblings, and they said it was a trendy sound. And in the brand guideline, it says, don't do trendy. Even if you're going to do trendy, either remix it or use it to do our own thing, forcing us to be creative." He, in the share screen, he zoomed in, and I saw there, and I didn't have a, so he's like very attention to detail, leave no stone unturned. I'm more of a, the work will get done. It will get done. You will like it. But you see that like detailed process. I can't even keep a routine for like 2 weeks. I can't. Every month I have a new morning routine, or it's now night routine. October has been night routine. So yeah, I'm always envious of people who just like, you know.
Brandon, give us your life update, because I'm about to. I have so much to say to that.
No, go for it.
Yeah, go on. I'm eager to hear what you want to say.
So I've had this similar conversation with a friend, because at that point in time, she was in a relationship with someone who was more like you, Van, and she was more like a Brandon. This is good enough. Right, and like that was her mentality, and she shared an article with me about people who basically, this is good enough versus like, no, it needs to be excellent every time, and where that comes from. And we went a bit deeper in that conversation. I'll share the article with you guys, because I think it will be very interesting for you to understand where that comes from especially since you're working together in this capacity. But we had a deeper conversation about our frame of reference. And so when you were speaking, Brandon, about, people that naturally are inclined to that, I was like, I feel the same. My whole startup journey life, Oyin is very much like a type a structure, a routine kind of person. And I'm just like a creative that isn't really a creative. Do you know what I mean?
Do you
I'm,
get, like, I can
I'm a
touch on a
free
bit of
spirit.
everything exactly.
And you know what's so interesting? People like Van are externally very structured, but internally very free, right? But someone like Brandon is internally very structured. So that he will have like boundaries that he may not communicate, but internally he knows, don't touch that. Right?
This is really
But
turning into a session
but
that's like,
externally he's very free. People will just joke with him anyhow. They'll think that between the two of them, between the two of you, they'll think that Brandon is the nicer person or kinder. But Brandon has more like hard boundaries about certain things than you, Van. But like
mm,
people won't discover that in initially. Like so,
hmm,
it's very interesting. But where was I going to? My friend who, not Oyin, but like another friend who's similar to yourself, Van, she was saying, my mom never settled. Like when we were growing up, we were broke, but if we wanted to go, if she wanted to go on holiday, we would borrow money and go on holiday. Like there was no other option than to go in the direction of what she wanted. And she has, like, as her child, you naturally learn these things. So when she hears like someone like me or her boyfriend at the time say, oh, I want this, but this and this is in the way, she's just like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, if you want it, do it. If you want it, go in the direction of your desire, right? And I told her, I said, it's the frame of reference, because not that like people around me growing up were bad, but I saw a lot of, this is good enough. This
Yeah.
is, this is it's not that they weren't driven, but I saw a lot of, this is good enough, or this is good for now. And so, sometimes that, like when you take that in and that's your environment, you learn to not necessarily go for everything you want or move in the desire of everything you want. You learn to accommodate more kind of other things. Whereas Vanessa, your mom, your family has, like, the environment has always said, you go after what you want and you don't stop until you get what you want.
absolutely,
So
and yeah,
so nothing is okay until you see what you saw inside. And for me, being almost 30, I'm now having to learn that. And you know what? It has taken me years even to get to this point, because I realize there's a lot of like, you have to actually be more in tune with yourself and become more, this is going to sound funny, but more one with yourself in order to go in the direction of what you want.
Yeah, I think my therapist called it like something like congruence between your
Yes,
congruence, yeah,
head value
essentially.
and your heart value. And even a
yeah,
simple example of that, of what you just said, is a couple of friends are staying at mine because they're doing like work around Liverpool or the likes. And then they're like, you don't have food at home. I was like, first of all, budget is tight. I can't just be having any type of food at home, right?
Figure it out.
Then they were like, no, you always need to have food. So we had stew. And my friend was just packing meat.
No,
And I was
no, no,
like, guy,
do that. You don't do
there's
that.
three of us in the house. Leave. So he was like, bro, because at this point we had, his wife ordered stew because she was away.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there was meat. But my brain is like, you gotta, like, things are tight. He said, this is my, first of all, he said this is his rebellion to his situation of not having
Yeah. When
everything.
he
But
was younger, he had one meat. You're not gonna
I
tell me
mean,
how many meat to
so
eat.
he's like, even if I'm poor, even if this is what I want and I can have it, and I'm thinking, but Sekos, and he said, I think you enjoy the fact that you are broke at the moment. And I was
oh,
like, I don't
Ouch!
enjoy it,
My
but
chest.
I'm the type of it's good enough for now
Mm.
because of maybe circumstance or wherever we are, whatever situation I am at. And even like every end of the year, me and my co-founder in Nigeria, it's always a almost. I'll be like, oh, we did this, we did this. We couldn't do everything, but I mean, we did this, we did this, we tried. We tried, right? And then it's been 2 years in a row of December of we tried. And I was like, this year, I'm going to make sure that I don't have that. But this year looks like it's going to be the worst one. Because
Yeah.
and
Wow.
now I'm doing radical faith of God. I believe you will send me to Nigeria one way or the other.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I believe you send me to Nigeria. And I'm doing radical because I'm like, but I think even if I don't end up going, I'll probably be the type to still be like, oh, I mean, yeah. And I think that's what I was saying to her. Like, I since September, I was like, I am hell bent on not feeling like I didn't try hard enough. So all the
Good.
ideas, anything in
Yeah.
my head,
Yeah.
I am hell bent
And
on not feeling like. So if it
Yeah.
doesn't work, me and our 3.0 said we'll wrestle God when
Yeah.
it comes
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
December,
Yeah.
because I'm like, bless you, I walked to.
at least you tried.
At
And
least I
Yeah.
tried.
that's why and so just to jump in there, I think one
Mm.
thing that as human beings is that we tend to underestimate like the impact of our environment growing up. So first of all, to understand my dynamic of what I'm about to share, I'm a twin. So I've got a twin
Mhm.
brother.
Mhm.
So people would inadvertently compare us.
Yeah. It's weird, though.
And so
You're not even the same gender. It's
we're
weird.
not even the same gender, guys. It's so annoying. But my mom, I think, because I was a studious child. I was okay. I was a bit strange growing up, like guys. So I enjoyed like schoolwork, especially maths. I
Yeah.
loved maths. I used to. I could sit there all day and just do maths.
Interesting.
So my mom got it into her head that I was a genius. I didn't feel like I was a genius. I just knew that if I set my heart to do something, I could do it. So I remember one time I had mock exams. I'll never forget. I was in year 10. I had mock
Mhm.
exams, and I forgot the date.
Mm.
I got the dates mixed up. So I thought it was the following week, and then I got to school, and I saw people like getting ready. Like how you come in, like you went to my school. Anyway, you come in and you can go to different classes and stuff. And at the entrance is this hall where people write exams. I'm like, where's everyone like waiting here? They're like, oh, our physics mock is this morning. I'm like, no, it's not. They're like, yeah, it is. I'm like, no, it's not.
Mm.
So I hadn't studied nothing.
Kai.
So I went and I did my mock, and I got a B.
Wow.
Good. You say wow. I was so proud of myself because for an exam I didn't study for, I got a B. My mom was in Nigeria at the time. She rang and I told her with so much excitement I got a B. She said, how dare you? Is that what you can tell me? A B?
Mm.
You in top set? A B? And you're smiling and you're, huh? God. And there I was, and I thought, I was feeling chuffed that, do you understand what it means to get a B in an exam that you didn't study
You
for?
didn't study for,
Just
yeah.
from knowledge. Hey, I said, God.
Mm.
So since then, I would always have this thing of, okay, I need to do better, I need to do better, I need to do better. And then it came to a head when it was my final year, and my final year was hard, guys. It was hard. It was tough. Like, the only people who could really relate were the people on my course. It was very tough. And I remember I sat my mom down one day. I said, Mom, I'm struggling.
Mm.
Mom, I'm struggling. And she was like, why, Shenio? You'll do it. You have to do it. You've come too far.
It's like that's not the words of encouragement
I
I
said,
need to
that's
hear at
not
this
what I
point.
wanted to hear. She said, I hope we're still on track for a first class. The moment she dropped that, I knew that anything less than the first.
Yeah, I
Not
was
be
gonna
happy
be.
with.
God. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I was like, I know I can do it. But I always wanted to have someone in my ear going, I know you're going to try your best, but if you don't do it, it's okay.
It's okay. Oh my
It was
God.
almost success or disappointment. So I didn't have like a middle ground. So believe it or not, guys, it wasn't until I turned like 27 that I learned to accept failure for the first time. And that was when I quit my previous job. And I remember I had a conversation, I'm going to say her name, sorry. I had a conversation with Lois. We went out to dinner. And she said to me, she knew how bad that job was. Not just by everything I told her about the job, but the day I told her I was quitting. Because she never knew me to quit anything in my life. Like, she knew that I would rather work myself to ill health. Like, than quit.
Mm.
So me quitting scared her. Me saying I'm going to tender my resignation. She knew I'd hit a breaking point that she'd never seen. But I said, you know what? This is not my failure. This is me choosing that I no longer want to do something. And this to me
Yeah.
is success. Even my mom was shocked. Guys, I had money saved because I have a house. I own a house, right? So I had my mortgage for 6 months saved. Like, if I don't get a job for 6 months, I can still pay my mortgage, my car, my bills, even Netflix. I didn't stop any payments. Everything was going on as is. And I said to me, this is actually success. The fact that I can choose myself. That was the first time in my
When to
life where I
leave, when to
accepted
stay, yeah.
failure. And I was like, you know what? I haven't failed.
But
I'm
the funny
good,
thing is,
you
like,
know.
that's not actually failure. Now you just left the job. That's actually
Yeah, but no,
not.
before that would
Yeah,
that would have crippled me. So I feel like you have to go back and see when you got when you got a C or a D or a B when you were younger, what was the reaction to people around you? And also you also have to think that, okay, if you're the person who got a C and people praised you, you felt like average was fine, right? You could feel like average was fine, or you could even motivate it and be like, you know what, I know I can do better, but I know that if this is all I get, then it's
you're not gonna
okay.
be
Yeah. So
metasized.
I don't know. I feel like it's a mixture. But all in
You
all,
know,
I just feel like it's the reaction. It's the reaction of people around you that sometimes drives your like drives
yeah,
your resolve, because even
it
now
creates a habit in your mind. Yeah,
like the adrenaline sometimes like it pumps, like the vision I have for my business and the things I want to do, and things like that, even within my like in my career, things like the dreams I have, I know they're not small, but it's like it's just who I am now. Thanks, mom.
that's a nice one. But
That's interesting.
you mentioned something about like the people that even if you didn't get it, you wanted people around you that was going to say, like, well done, or know that there were people around you, right? And that's
Yeah.
something that in therapy, my therapist was
Hmm.
like, remove the face of your parent and treat it like it was an office. And that's when I discovered the type of parent I want to be, because I want to be the parent that if you say you want to do something, so I want to be the parent that stands behind you. If you say you want to do something, I'll push you towards it. If you're going to
Mm.
fall, I will catch you. If you need
Come
the
on.
pat on the back, I will pat you on your back. If you
Mhm.
need like that type of parent, because that's something I didn't have. There was one time I came with my uncle was like, yeah, you're going to be the first millionaire in pounds. And my dad was talking about how, yeah, I'm going to do great things. And I'm thinking, I don't remember you when
Mm.
I was younger ever instilling. In my head, I was thinking like, I can't remember the conversations. I thought my mentor, who is like a close friend of my dad, like more of like a life mentor in general, who is
Mm.
a close friend of my dad, and we said, and I was like, yeah, I'm scared to be rich, because not even one, I'm scared of success, but two, I'm like, I have no idea what I would do with £1 million back then.
I
And
Oh,
they're
when
like,
it comes, you will. Don't worry.
no, and they were like, why would you not know what to do with it? Because I could not envision myself
Wow.
getting it, right?
Wow. Okay.
So like I always tell people, like, I am great as the person that stands behind. It's the same thing with people say, oh, Brandon, you own a church, you'll be a pastor there. I'm like, no, I'm good with being the supporting cast.
Associate pastor.
So
Not
you like
associated,
Mm.
like,
number two, but
I'm
you
good in
like
number
number
two.
two because you don't want the responsibility of number one, because it scares you to be the one driving that.
Driving, so it scares me because what if we don't succeed?
Oh my goodness! Do you know what? I understand
And
where that comes
then
from.
that'll be me, right? So what if we don't succeed? So
But that is your
there was a lot of like, yeah, no, go for it. Because in my head back then there was a lot of like, yeah,
Do you
it was
know what?
messy.
There is a book. It's on Spotify as well. So if you're more of an audiobook person, I
Mhm.
recommend it. There's a book called best believe I still haven't finished it because it's long. It's a thick book, I think. There's a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz.
Okay.
Basically talks about I think he's more of like a New Thought Christianity guy. So obviously, like, if you're really, really rigid in Christianity and you don't like, actually, even if you're rigid, you should read it. But anyway, the crux of the book is based on the foundation that you can never prosper more than your soul prospers. And I'll translate, that's Bible, but I'll translate it to this. This is how the book puts it. You cannot be more successful than your own perception of yourself.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
The way you truly view yourself. So everybody who wants more and doesn't seem to grasp a hold of it, etc. Basically, it comes from an internal image that you have from yourself for yourself, and basically, you can't be bigger than what you envision for yourself internally. And sometimes when people become successful, bigger than they actually perceive themselves, that's where the tension comes in. That's where they start to self-sabotage. That's where, you know, things start to go wrong, because internally they feel like a cricket, externally they are a giant, and now they're fighting off this massive kind of what's that thing called, imposter syndrome and all of these things.
Syndrome.
And so one of the things that I feel like God has been teaching me is like, okay, first of all, in order to actually bring out what I have inside of you, you first need to fix that internal perception. And it's not just like, oh, you know, I'm fearfully, wonderfully made. It's like, oh, actually, anything I put my mind to, I can do it. Because that was one of my limiting beliefs. Like, I want things, but I can't have them because I don't know how to do them, or I don't know if I'll succeed at them if I do them. And heck, nobody does. I think everybody just, like, people have different levels of drive, and most people who have found themselves successful at something, they just drill in. They keep hitting the rock, and they're like, I'm gonna get this because I want it, you know. And so you learn that, like, that internal image. I think, Vanessa, you're talking about seeing yourself with trouser suit and suitcase, right? Like, that image has always kind of driven you, even from a small age. And so you learn that oftentimes, like, the ceiling of your next kind of win or success is very much tied to how you perceive yourself. Like, if you never saw yourself being a millionaire internally, then yeah, it's not likely to happen until you break the ceiling internally and you're like, oh, I can see it now. That's when stuff starts to happen. And I've actually, like, in small ways, I've seen that happen. Like, when my will and my desire and what I'm envisioning now, I know this sounds a bit new agey, but I promise you it's not. Like, when they all align, that's actually when you see the results, because actually you're going in the direction of your desire. You're not what scripture calls a double-minded man, because actually, if you say one thing and your will is doing another thing, then, like, the entire world and the universe is confused. And I'm not saying universe as replacement for God. I'm just literally talking about the universe, like the cosmos, the system. And so, yeah, I think I'm just in that middle place of learning, oh, there's a formula to getting what you want. There's actually a formula. And a lot of people think it's just like shooting blanks and firing anywhere, and it's not.
No, and I think it definitely starts, because even that belief is what would keep you going. I was telling the person I'm building my startup with in Nigeria that, because she knew me as a pessimist, and I'm saying new because the last 4 months has been, I always say I'm a hopeful pessimist, and that's where the double-mindedness is, right? Like, I will be doing it, but I'm not expecting. But in case it does happen, let me make sure I'm best prepared, right? Like, the first time I wanted to do a
when
podcast,
really it's just doubt.
First time I wanted to do a podcast, I bought all the tech, I bought
remember.
everything needed. You know, mic stand, the audio interface
You came
is in
to my
church
house
now.
with equipment,
Like, the whole setup. But it was but in case I do it, or if it never works out, you know, but I would, you know, so I'm just having it there. And recently I was just telling her, like, look, I was telling her, like, oh, we are going to build we are going to create one of the biggest impacts in Edo State and Nigeria. Even when I met Jeff from at the startup, like after speaking to him, I call him my rich Asian man.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
my
I love it.
he's
I love
like yeah, he's my rich Asian man, because just I was like, he's not everything he was talking about. I was like, I know this stuff. I do this stuff. Even when I asked, they were talking about VCs, and I saw them, I was like, so what would I do to build a VC? And they all looked at me like, huh? And even being able to ask those questions. And recently, I was telling the co-founder in Nigeria that I'm having this feeling of like, a part of me felt like maybe it's arrogance, and
Mm,
I know I'm not a proud person, but at the same time, I was feeling this thing of like, I can beat these people to it.
yeah,
I can be the one to do it. And
Mhm.
this time it wasn't a like doubting, it was like I was genuinely feeling it within. And I think
yeah,
that's also part of me, like a bit of outworking the doubt. So I had an issue where I was trying to fix. The moment I started learning how to fix it, I was like,
yeah,
everything in my mind is not that far out of
yeah,
reach. And
yeah,
then something I noticed, my mind was like, but you can't be saying you would do it, that you can beat these people, you are better than them, because what if it doesn't then succeed? And then my spirit said, see, that's already you planning not to succeed, because you're saying,
yeah.
I'm
You're
not going to
planning.
beat my chest
Yeah,
and stand 10 toe on business and say, hey guys, I am going to,
Mhm.
build this amazing thing and do this great thing. Because in my mind, I'm telling myself that, oh, they might think I'm proud, but really my mind is saying, no, in case we don't succeed, let's not shout it, so that they will not come and look at you tomorrow and say, you said you would do all these things,
yeah,
but you didn't do it. So learn. And my founder was like, I already know you're not a proud person. So if you ever become egotistical or proud, I will let you know. So beat your chest and say you can do it. And
Yeah.
to me, that's like something I'm even learning for the first time, to be able to like say yeah. Because Van will say things like, do you think we'll do a live show? And I'm thinking, until we just started.
absolutely.
How you know? Why are you thinking
Without fail.
Yeah, but that's
live
that's
show?
that,
Why are you
that's
thinking
what.
of
And what I will say to that is that I think I love what you said, Laolu, about like, you can't go beyond what you've like pictured, like in your mind. Like sometimes, like I've pictured things that have now happened, and when
Mm,
I thought about it, it was big, it was
mm,
massive in my mind then. Like owning a house, guys, like this is something I wanted. I decided I was gonna do in my mid 20s when I was 14 years old. I will never
mm,
forget. I had a conversation with
mm.
my auntie, and she lived in Milton Keynes, and we would go to spend time with her. We spent a lot of our holidays there, with her. And I remember one time, me and myself and her, we went on a drive. She took me on a drive. She went into this house, then she came out. Then she went into this house, another house, like maybe like a 10-minute drive from there. And she came out and she sat in the car. And then we went to go have lunch in the like city town center place.
Yeah.
And then she said, Vanessa, you never asked me where we went. I said, I don't know. Like she said, those two houses we went to are my houses. Bear in mind she was 29 at the time, and the house that we were staying at was her third house, which she lived
Mm,
in with
Oh
her husband,
wow.
which she bought even. I think they bought it together. I think, or just before they got married. I can't remember. It was her third
Mm,
house, and she said I went into those houses to get my rent, right? And she was 29,
wow.
and
mad.
I was like, so she was like, Vanessa, listen, how many years do you have? You must buy a house before you get married. Have you heard me? And I'm like, I always had it in the back of my mind that I was going to buy my first house as a single person. Like it was always in my mind. So when I
Mm,
bought it, I was like, I remember our lovely church aunties had a lot to say about it, but I was just like, okay, like this has been my dream. When I told my mom that I had the much money, she was like, because my mom always wanted me to buy my first house as early as I possibly could.
yeah.
So she was like, look at you. But that's the thing,
Mm,
like I always saw that. And even I think in my business, I think the one that shocks me the most was the day that I literally, and the thing about me is, and I told B this as well, and I said it on one of our previous episodes, where it's like, I shamelessly plug myself. Like I can be in a store and someone's talking about, oh my God, it's my daughter's birthday. I don't even want to cook. And I'd be like, oh, hi, I have a food business, and I whip out my card. I never leave my house without a business card. I have business cards in my wallet. And I remember I went to this dinner, and literally it was a dinner of a friend, and I didn't know like more than half of the people there. So I sat next to someone I didn't know, and I was just talking. She's like, oh, I do this. I was like, I do this. And then I also have a business, blah, blah, blah. And I gave her a card.
Yeah.
Do you know that I got a call from the University of Nottingham about a month later
Wow.
saying, hello, is this Papa and Charles? I said, yeah, it's Papa and Charles. Oh, so we're having an event for the BAME Medical Society in the University of Nottingham.
Nice.
And it's basically our ethnic minority society, and we're looking for someone who can cater gluten-free, vegetarian, and meat.
No problem.
Do you know that I was speaking to the welfare officer at the student union,
Wow.
and I had no clue?
Yes.
So she was the
wow.
person who, and I catered 120 people by myself.
Wow.
That was
Mm.
my biggest job at that time. And what I quoted them, they didn't haggle. In fact, they came back to me and paid me £100 on top of that because they added 20 guests last minute.
Wow.
And they're like, can you, no, 15 guests last minute. And they're like, we'll pay you extra £100, even if all they can get is a drink. Because I did drinks as well. Can you just help us? What I put on that invoice, guys, I put by faith. But I said, you know what? And since that day, my pricing strategy changed, because I'm like, so I'm worth this? I want to be charging you this? No, I did a whole press review. Shout out to Uncle Visit Dembaquayo, because I watched a video of his that it reset my brain. It reset. I never forget that video. He said, nobody goes to a Ferrari dealership saying Toyota's cheaper. You're not our customer. If you want cheaper, go to Toyota. I said, yeah.
But it's true.
I said, Jesus. That was the first video of his I ever saw. He was like,
Yeah.
don't worry, like you have your customer base. Just identify them and you're good. If they can't afford you, perhaps they're not your
You're not a
customer. And
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, you can't. I think you just have to see the bigger picture. And you have a lot of ideas, in my opinion. And sometimes when you say your ideas, I'm always wowed by it. And when you're like, but can you? I'm like, you can. You're the person who's doubting yourself, because I don't doubt you in the slightest. Like when the whole Agba thing came together, I wasn't shocked at all, because I expected that from you. But I need you to see it.
Yeah, no, and that's
do you
something
know
that's
what he
taking
just
time.
described? He just talked about his internal dialogue with himself, where it's almost like his faith or his belief and his doubt and the old system of how he's usually thought were like having a dialogue. Do you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
Oh
think
yeah,
that,
that's
like,
literally in my head the whole day.
literally what you just said, I think that's how, without being too much of a spirit cooker, that's when you know that you've broken through.
Yes.
Because like open heavens are between the ears, right? Like that's actually where things start. And the fact that like internally you're having this conversation like, yeah, like I will do that, and it's gonna be like this. Like you, from anything that you do from that point, just know that it's going to happen, because
It's going to happen.
internally there's no mountain or limitation that says, but
But
do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
And even the
That's-
Bible says it. It says,
Yeah.
as a man thinketh, so is he. It says, believe, like if you want something, believe that you have received it and you will have it. Like there is a lot of believing what you want and it happening just by you believing that it can happen. That's the whole concept of what faith is. It's the evidence of things hoped for. You can't even see it, but you can, if you believe that it can happen. That's really all you need, to be honest.
I was telling someone that entrepreneurs are the prime example of faith.
Listen.
And even if they are not Christians, the reason they do succeed is because they have faith. It might not be faith in God.
Absolutely.
But they speak to you as though the things that they believe to happen has already happened. So they just have that belief. And someone once said, like, your vision is the loneliest place in the world, because no one else can see what you're seeing. So
what's going on today? What did we drink?
There's a lot of belief happening.
But jokes. But then you have to have that faith, because even if you're sharing that vision with people, they can see it. Whatever vision God has placed in your heart, no one else can see it to the extent
That's right.
that you can see it.
Wow.
So then having the faith as well to go with it. And even as like, I never thought of some of the things I did as being double-minded. Because one of my favorite scriptures actually in James, when it says, trial begats character, character begats faith and all of that. Then it says, don't be like the man in the wind that's tossed to and fro. But I never saw, for example, me saying to myself that, oh, I'm doing this, but in case this doesn't happen. My to myself, I thought it's just us protecting ourselves from failure. But I was always good at, and this is what I meant with like used to being the behind the scenes of the second person. For example, Quadridim's dream. Oh, that I would tell you because it's not just me doing it. It's because I believe that, oh yeah, Watering Puerto is
It
great.
will happen because
E123 is great. Those guys, I'm just, riding along, right? So because those guys are, since we were in uni, the vision in our mind for like what our buildings will look like, the amount of kids who will fly to Silicon Valley from Africa, like all those type of things.
Beautiful.
To me was like, it's very doable because it was not mine alone.
Yours alone.
But then when it came to things that were mine, it was like, ooh, and I never saw it as double-minded because I just thought,
Did you feel like you were the limiting factor in that though? Because it's almost as though if it rests on your shoulders, it might not happen. Why do you think that is?
No, that's because in the past eternally, I'm like, first of all, I don't think I'm the shit.
Oh, Jesus.
So that's going back to that being able to beat my chest. No,
it's fascinating to hear that because your output,
it's
output negates that.
It's fascinating to hear people say about me that I remember when I was in Nigeria. And
this episode should be called "We Therapize Brandon."
We therapize. No, hey, shout out to Ruth. We're gonna have her on soon. But
listen, she is.
I hear so many good things about Ruth. Anyway, but
yeah,
Ruth is whoever she thinks she is and more.
Is fam. She's amazing. So, but yeah, it's because in the past, I just if we even go back to like uni days, and even going back to what parents unconsciously instill in you. I remember the picture of my mom saying, "That's why you will not pass now." Even to things like that, right? It's like, oh, but I didn't know like those things were like.
Oh, it's very
resting
important.
And taking, roots and things like that. And then you come to uni where I didn't do well at all.
Yeah.
Then shares a light of like, oh yeah, you definitely are not that, you definitely are not that guy. Even when I start things, right? And I found this out, I can't remember how I found this out. Like if I start something to a certain point, there's a struggle to continue because you're thinking, I've done so well so far, so let me not mess it up. So let me just leave it at this state, and then it stays stagnant, right? So you don't want to push because you're afraid that if I push and it messes up, so let me just keep it where it is here, for example. So yeah, it's like when I got the house as well, and Van and my friend in Nigeria always have to say, bro, you own a house. But in the beginning, I was like, oh, if I can do it, then that means anybody else can do it. It must not be
you
that
almost
hard.
like, because can I tell you something that I remember the day he said something like alluded to the fact that because he was able to do it, buying a house is obviously a very basic achievement. I was so
like it must. I'm sure it's not that great if I can do it.
I was so hurt by it because I was just like, how dare you? Like, do you know? And that's why I said that when he says these things, I can't imagine it because I'm like, look at your output, and I feel like I'm someone that I go by like results a lot because I'm like, you know what? For a very long time, I told you that when people used to tell me that I'm a genius, yeah, I didn't believe it because I'm like, is it not just maths? Until one day I said, you know what? Like, I remember my A-level, sorry to just, digress, I'll run back. My A-level, my final year, I was very poorly. So I had this medical condition. By God's grace, it's been fixed. But
Amen.
Basically, I had a bad flare up in my A levels year. So my summer exams, I wrote like in a wheelchair basically. Like, I was so sick.
Right.
And I remember on the day, UCAS day, so the day we found out what uni we were going to, I didn't even go to school because I didn't expect to get in. I got into my firm, they wanted AAA or they wanted AAB or something. I got in, so I knew I got at least AAB. Sick. I got A star, A star, AAB because I did 5 or something like that. And I was just like, that was the moment I said, like, you know what, Vanessa, even poorly, you smashed your exact. No one could tell me anything after that. But it almost like, so when I see people who deliver say stuff like that, I'm like, I need you to take a step back and brag on yourself. Like, I did that. Since that day, you can't tell me. Now I say, oh, thank you. Oh, do you know, I
The,
try to work hard. I try
the,
to, but I acknowledge it. So you need to acknowledge, like, you're doing quadrivim, you're doing agbo, you're doing banter and belief. You have a full-time job. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, you have a lot that you're doing and you're doing it well. And the truth is, I don't think, because none of these things you're doing on your own, except your job, right? I don't think
mm,
anyone who believes that you're mediocre will want to work with you. I know like WoW 3.0 to some extent, and
yeah.
I understand that if you were dead weight, you would be dropped ages ago. So he
Mm.
sees what you're not seeing. Do you understand? I
Okay,
don't know
so
your
so
Agbo partner,
I'll
but I would say the same thing about the person. And so I need you, listen, I need you to be in your boss area. Yeah? Like, I need you to start believing in your source. I'm sorry. Like, I'm glad that I'm calling you out on it, and I'm glad that Laolu's here to back me. Like, you need to
good.
take a step back and realize that you have like 5, 6 things on the hub right now, and you're juggling everything quite well, and you're doing it quite well. And I need you to be like, you know what?
Okay, so
I'm
this
that person.
what I'm gonna say now might sound a bit strange, but if I bring back to the very beginning, right, when we started about talking
Mm-hmm.
about doing things to a particular standard, the reason I don't always feel like so when people are saying the result is great, the reason I don't always feel like it's that great is because I know that there was probably more to give. So I don't always fully take
Mm.
pride in certain things because I'm like, this could have been
Like, you
better.
winged it and it still managed to work
I feel
out.
like half of the time, the amount of things I've winged, right? And even at work, the amount of things I've winged. And then I'm like, if I didn't spend 70% of the time fighting the doubt to start this thing and then doing it in the last minute, I could have probably done a lot more,
Yeah, but I want you to
right?
flip that, B. How brilliant do you have to be that your mediocre provides excellent results?
Yeah, but then you see when you say that in the past, I then have to have the confidence to be like, oh my days. No, but I'm saying it's better now. I'm just saying that in the
Oh,
past.
we're very
Yeah, yeah,
aware that it's
yeah,
better
yeah.
because
I have a question. Well, two things I have to say. I think that's where, so you know, when I was talking about your frame of reference, like it's not always this is good enough. Sometimes it's, oh, be careful, or like, do you get what I mean? And those things kind of now become the secondary voice in your head. And recently, I've always found it weird that I'm really into people that talk about children and, you know, children's development, because actually a lot of who we are today was pretty much settled when you were like 5, 6, 7, 8, tops 10,
apparently,
you know.
yeah.
yeah.
And so one of the things you learn is, I've been seeing a lot of this kind of repetitive rhetoric where it's like, you know, when you see a child struggling with something, let
Mm-hmm.
them struggle with it and figure it out.
True.
Don't jump in and intercept and like do it for them. And the reason why you don't do that is because you want to build your child's confidence in their competence, right? So that child learns, oh, I can fix things. Do you get what I mean? Like it becomes, and I don't know if you guys have seen the Emotions movie, like the second one. You know, they have
I've
the
heard so
river.
many good things about it. I need to
It's
watch it.
brilliant, Brandon. It will minister to you, and anybody that watches it ministers to me. But like basically they have this pool where they throw memories down there, and when the memories hit the water, it forms a string up to like the brain or whatever, and it forms what they call a core belief. Yeah. And
Oh.
so these are, you know, that's basically a really good imagery of what actually happens. Like when you do things and you do them well and you figured it out yourself without someone shouting on you or like telling you, if you don't get this one right, I'm gonna beat hell out of you and stuff like that. You learn, oh my gosh, I'm really competent. I can do this, right? And so that core belief, and the thing is, at the beginning of this episode, you said you envy people who like have like reached their 30s and they've kind of figured that part out, or like they have that thing figured out. What it really is just remanufacturing core beliefs. Like some people are in environments where they pick them up really quickly. Some people get to their 30s and they've had to build them themselves because of whatever factors. Do you know what I mean? And I had a conversation with my dad before he died, not just before he died, but like a few months into it, because he basically told me more or less I'm delusional because he felt like, you know, we, his children, were very disrespectful. We don't understand the culture, blah, blah, blah. As Yoruba children, how dare we, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, these things that you're saying we don't do, you didn't teach us. The reason I'm this way is because I went to a Nigerian church in university. It's GBC that taught me all my culture, I beg, you know? And so he was like, oh, you're delusional, blah, blah, blah. But then I asked him a question. I was like, because he was comparing two people and he was like, oh, this person isn't focused and stuff like that. And I was like, you can say that because you grew up, he would always say, like, even though his mum died when he was very young, he grew up in a household where there was a lot of like praise and he felt very affirmed. And I said, yeah, Dad, you're the way you are because your environment told you I'm competent and I can do this. And so even when you faced hardship, that was a core belief, dude. And that's why you are the way that you are. So you're not going to say, oh, this person, they don't know anything. They literally just have not built that internally for themselves yet. And so that's why where you are internally, Brandon, is so powerful, because actually what you've got is the core belief that you can and you will. And like that will take you everywhere you want to go, essentially. So yeah, Salah, that was really fun though.
And there's somebody I want to recommend for parents who are listening. I don't know if there's any parents listening, to be honest. To be fair, yes, because our friends are starting to
I just
have.
realized
Our friends have like they have kids. One might say, "Hey, Jesus!"
Like why
Anyway,
why do our friends have kids?
Well, I want us to segue into something actually. Laolu, I have a question for you. It's along those lines, but there's somebody I absolutely adore called Praise Forward. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that name. Praise Forward is a life coach, but he's very intentional about parenting, and that's actually how I discovered him years ago. He's very intentional about parenting, and when you hear like the way that he doesn't just parent, but the way he coaches other people to be parents, is because he's cracked the code of when people form thoughts about themselves. And there's something that I can't remember if it was him who said it or this other person, where it was like, when your kids are doing something, don't tell them good job immediately. Ask them how they felt about it, and they'll tell you, oh well, I drew the lines and I did the colors, and then you'd be like, wow, that was good, because you've reinforced the fact that they think they did a good job. Not you telling them they did a good job, because they will take validation so seriously that they will always wait for somebody to say good job before they believe they've done a good job.
My mail?
And then
let's not talk about validation days.
And I was like, yeah, bullet. But yeah, honestly, because I watch a lot of things about like parenting now and seeing how like you just look at your kids, and you know, growing up, they'll tell me I was talkative when I was younger, because I used to talk, I was very like, I would be with the adults, be like, no, and then my mom says she's so grateful that she never talked me out of being talkative, because I'm confident. So there is no, like, I don't ever like, if I go into a room, the nerves will be there. The moment I open my mouth, the nerves are gone. Like I will just talk and talk and talk and talk. And that's because I was never told, be quiet, you talk too much, go whatever, whatever. And I've seen people who were told they were too loud end up, cowering and going back into their shell. And Prince always said something. He said, look at your kids and look at those introverts you have as kids. They're not introverted, they're broken because you guys basically took away their confidence. You stripped them of that, like their actual personality, that they resorted like to just being introverted
Yeah,
because they
retreat.
thought that, yeah. So you restrict them, but you almost see the extrovertness when it's something that they enjoy, that they can't help it. It comes out and you're like, but he's very timid. I can't believe someone so timid can be confident on a TEDx talk. That's because there is still some kind of fire in that person that you didn't kill, but you've stripped them of their actual personality. And I was like, Praise, first of all, when I start having children, Uncle Praise, I know your fees are high, but God will give me the money because I am going to need your help. My kids need to grow up balanced. Like, I don't underestimate the power of affirmation and respect for your children when they're young, not just when they're older, where you're like, you have a good job. My son, my daughter, literally your 3-year-old brings you a glass of water. Tell them thank you. Do you understand? So they don't become pushovers and think that being nice is just being nice and they shouldn't be respected for being nice. Yes, you tell me thank you. You say please when you want to ask me for something. Just those little things,
Things,
just to
yeah.
build the confidence. But yeah,
I have one last thing to say. One last
I
thing.
didn't see that going there, guys.
We have not finished, so
We're not done
good,
because
we're about to start
good.
part 2. We're about to
Okay,
start
praise
part
part 2.
2.
So
Laolu,
Lalu,
part 2.
they said
But
there's something
wait.
you wanted to say. Yeah.
Okay. I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and she's like a trainee psychologist right now. So she's doing a doctorate, and I said this thing just came out of my mouth, but I was like, oh yeah, I think that's true. I said, like, sometimes I think we actually grow in the direction of our validation. And so this is why you find, like, if you are very like spiritually mature when you're younger, everyone praise you. You can pray. Let's see how he's quoting Bible. And then that person, like, they grow up thinking, I'm gonna become a preacher because everybody only affirmed them as a
See,
preacher. These times, this person is a full-grown media presenter. They just have they know how to communicate.
Charisma
They
and
know, they know how to engage with someone. And so I was saying, actually, I think, especially as a child, like, you grow in the direction of where you're being validated. And when I reflect, I'm like, do you know what? If my parents were to like tell me, Laolu, you get sent in this area, I think I would be a lot further in this area by the age that I am. We thank God for his process and his will overall, but I actually think that the things that you praise people for, the things that you validate, it gives them this kind of image of what they think they're going to become or be. And sometimes you actually need to you need to find more balanced ways of validating the other areas of people's lives aside from like, you can pray and stuff like that. So
that's why I tell people all this one. People are always saying to me, "I'll be a pastor." Everybody
I think you're
cannot
just
be
born
ordained
to be
a
a
pastor.
leader. You're born to
it doesn't
and
necessarily have to
also,
be specific.
let's also understand that there are teachers and prophets and apostles in the marketplace. Like, if you're called to be
Do
a
you get?
pastor, you will always shepherd. Like, naturally, I have a shepherd's heart. So naturally, people follow me and I gather people and I like to nurture. It's just a part of my DNA.
Come on,
You know what I mean?
Neofest.
Like, I just do that because it's the gift of God in me. So whether I pastor or not, like, I don't really look at it like I want to do that, not gonna lie. But like, I have grace to pastor in the sense that, like, naturally I lead people, I nurture, I take care or look out for people because that is the gift of God in me. So like, we need to stop
It's
all
the
that.
God in me.
We need to
It's
stop
the
all
God in
I forgot that you can sing. We're gonna have a conversation. EP coming. Watch this space.
Let's not even get into my Spotify because, bro, I keep
No,
getting questions.
have you seen?
And I'm like,
you do know she has tracks out on Spotify, right?
So what you're gonna do is you're gonna use Vanessa's music as intro and outro.
Fam, the background music for all the clips this week will be from
Vanessa.
for this episode. All the background music on social media
Can you imagine?
I just realized we have our own
Why
music and I've
this?
not been using it. I've
Why
just been
this? Why?
thinking,
Why?
hope no
Why?
copyright, hope no copyright.
Why?
Wow. And you know you can be making a quick penny on Spotify from all of these streams. Can you see yourself?
Bullseye. There's not such as Bullseye. It's my favorite artist on my playlist.
What's your name on Spotify? No, I just wanna put it in my phone.
Yes, it's Vanessa Di Bello, so yeah.
Watch me. Follow. Share.
But yeah,
Anyway,
no,
but yeah, that was I really liked that conversation. But we're about to switch gears.
Oh, this is 2 episodes for sure. Even 3, Seth.
no, again, thank you for coming on. And thank you everyone for listening. We really do appreciate it. It's still weird the fact that there's almost like 50 people on Instagram, and I'm like, why are you all here?
Because we like it. We like the concept.
So yeah. All right. Thank you everyone.
Till next
Merci
time.
beaucoup. Bye.